afternoon, friends. I extend a very warm and hearty welcome to all the participants and learned speakers to this 78th webinar on new labor codes, how corporate needs to make over for their implementation. We are organizing this program as a part of Corporate Professional Knowledge Sharing Initiative. Friends, new labor code notified by the central government in September 2020. And it has ushered in the biggest ever change in Indian labor laws. Since labor is a concurrent subject, both center and state have to frame the rules. While several states have been already pre-notified the draft rules, all the states are expected to be on board soon, and the new law will become the effective law during the financial year 22-23. In our first webinar on new labor code, we focus on explaining and understanding the ramifications of the new 4 labor codes on wages, social security, industrial relation, and occupational safety, health, and working conditions. And the need for corporate to gear themselves up for their implementation, that we have explained to you that how many present labor law is there and how the labor code will come out in future, which is the merge, which is the new things which has come. Our second webinar on new labor code have been designed to take note on the development so far and preparation and planning which corporate needs in the light of those developments, including in particular planning financial restructuring for the costing of HR, because there are so many changes which will directly affect your pocket, your bottom line. Planning for flexible manpower without conflict with the law, because there are so many things as allowed by the new labor law where you can restructure by not putting everybody on the basis of permanent, but there is a flexible labor manpower process that is started. Planning for overall makeover of this particular law. You have to increase the productivity. You have to face the global challenges. You have to see the technology, because at so many places now technology is taking a very important role, and technology and skill set will be required. Profitability and productivity will enhance by doing this, because that was the demand of the both sides. Strategic HR issues, that is that you cannot do this the HR point of view, but you have to make it now more strategical process. Need of modern industry, like we are saying gig workers are there. So what is their point? Consultants are there. So many people are working on a retainership basis. So these are the things which we have to discuss today and understand this. The basic focus of today's program is that how the corporate needs this makeover for their implementation and labor code. There was a communication and confusion in the minds of industry that labor code is not coming. Till now, there is no change, and from 1st April 2022, the labor code will implement. Before we start our discussion, it is my pleasant duty to give you the brief introduction of our learned speaker. Today, we have our Sadabahar speaker, Mr. Anupam Malik. He's a partner and head people service corporate professional and former labor commissioner of Haryana and former registrar of trade union of Haryana. In view of the initiative by the Labor Department during his tenure, Haryana has been the first state in the country to successfully provide full range of online service to the industry. He was member of the core committee for drafting on new labor law and first ever officer from the state government to be nominated as member of the Central Minimum Wages Advisory Board in the Government of India. He is the eminent speaker on labor laws, compliances, management, and has addressed a number of conferences and seminars in various parts of the countries. I welcome you, sir, for this program. Then we have our second speaker is Mr. Joravar Singh. He is a director and CEO of Olympus Management Consulting Service Private Limited. Interestingly, he holds degree in engineering, law graduate, and MBA in HR. So he has a combination of all three things which is required to a expert HR professional. He has experience of over 30 years, including 14 years at senior HR position in leading corporates. He regularly provides consulting service and hold workshop on labor laws for government, professional, and industry bodies. Friends, this is our two prominent speaker. But before starting the program, I have to give some pleasant announcement, and it is my great privilege to share with you that Corporate Professional is launching new service named People Service, which is a part of the labor law, is a part of the People Service, because there's the People Service. And in partnership with our partnership with Mr. Anupam Malik, and Anupam Malik sir is joining as a partner in Corporate Professional, and he will head the the People Service business, and he will be the partner and head People Service Corporate Professional. So I welcome Malik sir. This is our People Service for a smooth transition of how the changeover will take place, and Anupam Malik sir will lead this particular thing. And this is the how you have to change from existing to new. What are the strategic, how the new labor code you have to implement, what are the strategical issue we'll face, how the problems you will face, and the complete service relating to labor law will be provided in People Service. So that is the aim. I welcome Anupam Malik sir as a partner in Corporate Professional, and it is our privilege that a person like him, who is expert in this area in the country, he is thorough, knowledgeable about this particular law. He has hands-on experience in this area, and definitely not only the corporate profession, but our client as well as the industry will benefit by his experience, and we will definitely do something great for industry. Anupam sir, for your two words relating to this, our new things, you want to say something, then I will proceed further.
Thank you, Pawanji. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be on board with the Corporate Professionals Group. It is, I mean, less said the better. Corporate Professionals Group is a very known and ever growing, ever changing, and ever developing organization. And with you at the helm of affairs, I have seen things happening over the years that the positive attitude and the creativity you have is an inspiration. So we've been together in so many programs of ICSI since 2006 and 7. And all the way we have been there. But after my retirement, I had a stint with many projects. So it was things, coming together for a larger Ganga, for the benefit of all. You see, all your clients, and this is a whole gamut of things. My presentation will explain why it is so necessary to get this on and get going. That old thinking will have to cease, and we must progress. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So, friends, I remember the program structure is like this. First, Anupam Malik sir will speak and give a presentation, so you can understand that how much things you have to do before 1st April will approach. Then Mr. Jorawar Singh, who is expert in this area, he will talk about various aspects, various technical aspects, and various new things which will be eye-opener. And then we will have a question answer. I remember when we have organized the first program, we received 280 questions. And I remember I was having a rapid fire round from the beginning. And I was asking question, and Mr. Malik was giving answer spontaneously. So my request to all of you, you have any question after his presentation or any doubt in your mind, please write to on the question answer box, and we'll give answer of all questions. So thank you very much, Malik sir and Joravar Singh sir. Now I will request
Pleasure.
Malik sir to share his thought and his presentation. Over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Pawanji. I'm starting off with my presentation. Okay, that's it. Once again, we are on the same platform, trying to understand how to grow, how to make profits. Labor forms the gateway and enabler for profitability and growth. First of all, you need to clarify in your mind that the objectives and benefits of new labor codes, the entire structure of the new codes has a very clear thought process that these must, the new laws must bring about profitability and productivity. How? With the help of technology and skills. Now, technology and skills is very important. And flexible organized to meet challenges of the global business. And how it will happen? Unless you have the best of people and well-paid, well-maintained, skilled workforce, it is not possible. So we go on a journey. I will give you certain aspects of what you have to expect from these laws and how you are to conform to these laws for a better industrial relation and profitability and growth and productivity. Now, what is a flexible? We all know that in the global business, we need a flexible, profitability, there's a reverse. Profitability and productivity. What can ensure, I start from here. We all know that we need a flexible organization to meet the challenges of global business. You all know that, contracts and sale contracts are coming in for a very short period. And suddenly another client comes and changes tack and changes technology. And how do you do it? When change is the only constant, there's a proverb, the change is only constant in this world. So in business, and the new law supports business in strategic HR structuring. Do you have the vision to change and restructure? Are you responsive to global business? Are you ready? Or you are just stuck on a constant kind of mood? You can have fixed term employees based on your client needs and projects. Do you have clarity about your business to engage worker as per need? Now, if you are trying to, herd hiring, that concept is no more. It's going to cost very high. Low paid herd hiring is poor. It's a poor thinking. Now you want regular workers and you can have a flexible organization. The law provides now that you can have go for layoff, retrenchment and closure without the permission of the government if you have less than 300 workers. That is an average factory, an average organization, MSME, and medium organization is definitely only this much. Because there is another factor of outsourcing. So if you have 300 skilled workers on a roll, it is sufficiently big. Are you fair? Now, here is a very big question. Are you fair with your workforce for honest change without industrial disputes and litigation? Are you fair with them? Do you pay them well? Are you giving them a good handshake before going? If you don't, then you will be in the same bracket of litigation disputes and rust. Or you still continue to suffer from a contract labor syndrome and do not want honest change. Let us be very frank. Today, the manufacturing sector has 80% blue collar, and out of them, half of them are at least contract labor. Is it correct? You're doing it for so many adverse, oblique reasons. Why? Now that the law allows you to have a flexible organization, why do you want, Mr. Zorawar will explain the very nitty-gritties of this complex issue. And then the rest of them, if they are not well paid, don't assume they'll be with you. The industry is in for growth. Your best of workers will go away. The attrition rate is going to cost you a lot. It's going to cost you a lot. Business with the help of technology and skills.
If you are looking for, old ways of working, your productivity is nowhere. Forget it. The new laws recognize the need for high-tech working, and that change due to technology cannot be obstructed. The law says you change, and the law helps you. Is it possible to survive in business without today without technology on your side? Are you prepared? You'll be wiped out of the market. If you don't have technology by your side, you're not reliant, nobody is going to give you business. Is your manpower qualified or skilled to work on new technologies? The new laws support you to restructure. Are you prepared? The law says you restructure. If you have fixed projects, you can have fixed term employees. The new law supports training and development for skilling and reskilling of workers. Do you have regular plans for HR training and development? There is some change. Go in for training, refurbish the same manpower and bring them online. But you do not afford to ignore. You cannot ignore these important requirements of modern business, a global business. Or you do not estimate the cost of attrition and happy with use and throwaway attitude, then God help you. Profitability and productivity, this is the ultimate. What are you doing business for? Profitability and productivity. What can ensure profitability? What can ensure return on investment? What can ensure productivity? Only a very skilled human resource which is maintained with strong basics on compliance and social dialogue to ensure their ownership of decisions in operations. Share the information, share the decisions, let them own it, pay them well, train them well. And then again, the law is on your side. Online record. See, it's so simple. You don't have to go in for an army of clerks in the administration. You don't, it's all online. Clarity in wage structure. You don't have wage structure, for different people for different wage structure. It has been universalized in the wage code. Clarity in terms of conditions of employment. No hidden agenda, please. Your standing orders should be clear, and your appointment letter should be very clear. And if you have quick, problems or complaints, everywhere you have manpower, you have some or the other difference of opinion. If you have social dialogue and quick disposal of complaints by and against HR. If there's a worker having a problem, talk to him. If the management is creating a problem, listen to the worker and get it rectified. We are talking of smooth, efficient, profitable business, return of investment and productivity. Strategic HR restructuring under the new labor codes. Strategic HR restructuring to benefit from the flexibility and new systems that are practicable under the new labor codes in order to maximize productivity and improve costing besides ensuring compliance. HR, these are all common things. HR restructuring to strengthen skill sets to improve productivity, productivity analysis, competence mapping, training and development. These are issues you have to keep it in mind for ever-changing business. Business process reengineering to address the need of customer, the market requirements. Technological changes in business process, assessment and planning for induction of new technologies. These are issues for which you need to restructure. Industrial relations scheming to address recurring IR problems on same or different pretext. If you have some problem occurring again and again and again, and you are not able to restructure, there is a problem. Analyze it and restructure. Clean up. If you're not able to address it, clean up. Restructuring and crisis to reduce liabilities. To plan and execute strategies for layoff, retrenchment, closure, or transfer of undertaking, liabilities, strategies, and statutory issues. We've been handling a lot of projects in which mergers, acquisitions, today things are happening so fast. The companies are being acquired, sold, and as per the need of the market and going ahead. What are the essential formalities, the legal formalities to go ahead? Don't shut shop and run away. You'll be in big trouble. You will face the market. I'm going to tell you in the end that you can't carry a black spot on your entrepreneurial career today, you are going to be watched on the market. You will be noted for poor practices. So if you have to lay off, the law helps you. If you have to rent, the law helps you. If you have to close down an undertaking, the law helps you. And if you have taking over and giving over the business to someone, you have to be careful. Other reasons, stimuli affecting business adversely to the business. All the needs of modern industry are addressed. Now coming to, these were the needs of modern business, and I have tried to link with the support which the new laws give you. Now I'm coming to very, very specifics and a quick shot. All the needs of modern industry are addressed by 4 codes, as Mr. Pawan has told you. The new wage code, subsumed 4 labor laws, the minimum wage, the payment of wages, and the equal remuneration, and the payment of bonus act. The industrial relations code subsumed 3 labor laws, the industrial relations code, the standing orders, and the trade union. The occupational safety subsumed 13 labor laws. Interestingly, new wage code is very interesting. All these laws have been so simplified. Wage code, common in all codes. What is common? Definition of wage is in common. Minimum wage is universal right. Wage is a universal right. Occupational safety is a universal right. Ease of compliance rather than focus on prosecution. It's a big change. No inspector can simply run into your business and say, I'm going to prosecute you. No, you cannot. You have to give an opportunity for compliance. In every law, they say he's a facilitator. He has to help you in compliance. And if you still don't comply, then of course, the penalties are very heavy. Compliance is online. Now, interestingly, you don't need all those registers, 24 registers, 50 odd registers in any factory for compliance. No, it's all online. The inspector would also be a facilitator. Concept of compounding of it. Even if you actually done a offense and it's not been rectified, there is provision for compounding. Prosecution not for violation and for non-compliance. It is for non-compliance only. Earlier, the inspector would walk in and say, this is a violation, and he'll prosecute you. No, now he'll give you a chance, and then he'll prosecute. He'll give, after you don't do it, despite giving the chance, he'll prosecute for non-compliance. The concept is changed. Penalties are very stringent in case of prosecution. Opportunity to automate and reduce cost of administration. That army of clerks is not needed anymore. That time office, the salary administration, the keeping of records and whatnot is no more. Everything is online. The IR code. The very significant concepts are exhaustive definition of worker employee, neither to confuse and dependent on case law. Who's a workman? We've had plethora of case law over the years, and we are arguing on that. In wage law, the concept is universal. So simple. Everybody has a right. But in the case of industrial disputes, the IR code, the worker is very simple and it has been defined very clearly. To be brief, if a person had administrative and financial authority, he is a manager, he is not a worker. And he has no right here under the IR code. He has a right under the wage code, but he has no right under the IR code. Structured definition of industry. They have very clearly excluded charitable organizations and certain other, but for regular business, it's very clear. No requirement for certification of standing orders, as the standard model standing orders would be applicable to all industries up to 300 workers and even beyond, if stated in writing for adoption of model rules. It's not necessary that you go and get it certified. Now today, earlier, we were running the place with just nothing, stories. But now you have to be very clear that your compliances have to be very clear in your appointment letter and standing orders. Up to 300 workers, you can have your own standing order, but you do not need to get it certified unless you have, it's not mandatory. You can get it certified, but it's not mandatory. But above 300 workers and above, you need to get it certified. But there also, see, the ease of business is that you can simply give it in writing to the certifying authority that we are adopting the model roles. Finished. You don't need certification. Just imagine. Everywhere is a red carpet for business and a very structured road for compliance. If you deviate from the main road, then you are in trouble. Promotion of bipartite mechanism. Time limit for raising investment. Now nobody will wake up after 10 years and put in a case against you. Clarity in structure and functional procedure of industrial tribunals. Things have been very well defined, which were up till now only in case law. Things have been made out very clearly. Provision for arbitration of industrial disputes. In my career, 34, 35 years, I have seen only 2 cases of arbitration, and even that award failed to be implemented. Today, arbitration is going to be meaningful, so that we want to reduce litigation. We have to make business easy. Worker reskilling fund to be constituted. Now you have your own, you are permitted to have your own system of reskilling, training and development. The law recognizes it. And if you are still sleeping, God help you. And then important provisions for HR structuring. The very specific area that have acquired, as I had mentioned earlier, a totally new dimension is defining a core function for contract labor and no provisions for contract labor in core areas, but the stringent conditions for seeking deployment in core functions, but the procedure for registration and license under the Occupational Safety, Health and Welfare Code. Section 2P, if you read it, you will be very clear. Please read section 2P of the OSH code. It has defined what is core function and non-core function. Interestingly, actually the definition of non-core function, that these are areas, say housekeeping, say horticulture, say material management, the material movement, waste management. All these things have been listed out very clearly. Please read it and things will be very clear. Rest of the functions are core functions. You cannot engage contract labor because the law has provided on the other side provision for fixed term employment to support flexible working and restructuring on better terms and condition of permanent employee. Very simple. You have to pay the gratuity every year and your scales have to be at par with the regular workers. Finished. And you can have a worker on fixed term, say 1 year, 2 years. Of course, you cannot have, cut corners or discriminate, but you are permitted to, if you have a fair deal, you can have fixed term employment. Why do you need contract labor? Mr. Zorawar will explain more of the tactical and technical issues. Provisions to prevent unfair labor practice are intact. Be sure that if you're still going to do something funny, then the law is still there. Industries employing less than 300 do not need the permission of the government for layoff, arrangement and closure. Interestingly, I just said that earlier also. Now here the challenge and opportunity is strategic review and the restructuring of HR and its costing. Most important is the costing today, because it's not only the cost of HR. If you don't have good HR, your return on investment is dependent on a good skilled workforce. You'll hurt your business if you don't. Occupational Safety and Health and Welfare Code contains exhaustive provision relating to occupation. Now, again, service sector was not included earlier in the Factories Act. Now, this is a universal right. Even in the service sector, you can't put people in a dingy room and make them work. You have to have good ventilation, good temperature, and good place to sit and work. So it's a universal one. One registration of an establishment instead of multiple registrations. Now imagine if you have a service sector, you had a Shops and Commercial Establishment Act. You want contract labor, you have to have a registration. Then you have a license. Then you have a Factories Act, you have a registration. You have a Motor Transport Workers Act. If you are having transport, then you have other things also. Everything into one. Just imagine, is it not simplified? The code is applicable to all establishment employing 10 or more workers. Challenge and opportunity is reduce paperwork, improve compliance, and systemize your workforce. Have a skilled workforce and a good workforce. We learned very well during the pandemic. Now, Social Security Code. Be very clear in your mind. You are all aware of. Everybody saw the poor show on the roads, or treatment of poor people. The poverty was on the roads to see. Why? Because there was no social security background. Each of you must have gone through the heat, and you must have understood, I am sure, what is the difference between social security and insurance. It is a universal need. So social security has come a long way, and the concept, the law is just revolutionary. If you have seen the latest announcements by the government, everybody is covered under, PF will be available, facility will be available for all. Even a rickshaw puller on the road, an auto driver or a taxi driver or a mechanic on the road, he can also be a member of Provident Fund and ESI. These things have been announced already. What I worked on it for almost 10 years and I failed. The present government has done it in a biffy. So as announced by the government, now we are heading for a universal coverage of health insurance for all, a right to facilities like Provident Fund under a common social security number. Now when you have flexible working, you have a courier coming in, you have a transport outsourced person, you have everybody, all those, smaller ones, say less than 10 people in the horticulture, they also have a right to social security. They can all be covered in these unorganized sector. Gig workers are also covered. This concept has not been attended to till now, but now it is very open because gig workers are very thickly involved in organized business. Couriers, they are all going to be covered. They'll have the right to facilities under the Provident Fund and the ESI. So you have to facilitate. You don't need to fear anymore that somebody will be put onto your account. So you have to facilitate working so that there is no obstruction, no glitch in your progress, profitability, and skill development and working in a global business. And if you are not able to understand, then you have to understand global business. As I said, there is a new concept now which has already come in. We were talking about non-tariff trade barriers. There was a dispute in the WTO that the advanced countries were trying to impose working standards on you. And there was a conflict that WTO has no authority to interfere in the working standards, the dress code in my factory. If I have a hot climate, I'm not going to provide jackets like in the West. They cannot dictate terms. We were fighting that war, yes, on the international front, but now they have come out with a different index. Whether you are a reliable business, now if you are trying to say that you are not affected by global business or you're not affected by anything, then be sure China has already wiped out your local business. Now that will not happen if you are efficient. You will have to have sustainability index rating. All those factors, the concept is already in the market based on compliance of laws, working conditions, environmental standards, finance and accounting standards, besides overall health of the business. If your business has a sustainability index rating, your business will be audited and certified for the level achieved. International buyers will give preference and value for products if the business is certified with good ratings. International financing will be possible only on the basis of sustainability index rating. If you are not having a well-maintained workforce, they will not give you business. The financial institutions will not give you money. And if you think you can run your business on your own money, you don't need money from the bank or the financial institution, and you can run the business with unskilled workforce or low-tech machinery, then you are in trouble. You will be wiped out of the market. And these things are going to be rated. This is very important immediately for all garment exporters. It's very important immediately for 100% export organizations. And if you see that institutions like the companies like Zomato and Swiggy, they've gone into electrical scooters for delivery. Why? Because they understand it and they've made it environment friendly. They are not using petrol-based vehicles because they want money from institutional funding agencies. They'll get money cheap at, and your industry, if it is local and you're not compliant, you'll not get the money. You'll not get the market. You'll not have a buyer. And you can't sustain here. Therefore, your business has to rise above the level of compliance of labor laws and come to the level of international sustainability ratings. I'm taking you beyond compliance now. We've been singing and talking about and discussing compliance and compliance and compliance. Today, you will have to be a healthy business based on good technologies, run by skilled workforce, a flexible working. And if your business has to survive and thrive in the global market standards of labor codes, the labor codes are the starting point. Think big and think sustainable, think progress, think profitability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for very lucid and very deep presentation where you have touched each and every aspect, what is the law, labor law, and how it will take shape. Friends, one thing is very clear after Mr. Malik's presentation, that the labor law is taking a new shape, new direction, and modernize itself. No doubt, labor law is always a subject which is very important, but nobody wants to touch it. Today, you are unable to do because you have to work out so many things in this. The concept of ESG, environment, social, and governance, it is a buzzword now. Every company, every investor wants to see whether you are properly complied and you are providing better facility to your labor, your worker, your team. And that is the crux tomorrow. And actually investing in your team is not a cost, it's an investment, and which is giving you productivity, better result, and better investment in future. We should understand this concept very well. Now, Mr. Joravar Singh, I have told you he's an engineer, he's a lawyer, he's an MBA HR. So you can understand. And then he has worked in so many big assignment with corporation. So he has all types of experience from other side. Mr. Malik has done he was an additional commissioner. Mr. Joravar Singh is a practical practitioner in this area. So he will give you the new dimension. Over to you, Joravar Singh, sir. Please.
Good evening. I'll start my screen sharing. Hope I'm visible.
Yes, it is okay.
Okay, good. First of all, congratulations for starting the new services, people services, because I hardly look at companies which have a complete bouquet of services, of compliances from one end to other. So this is a good step which has come in. So the title is also that has ever a need we felt that rocket science of labor codes be made easy for directors? Obviously, there is a need, hence these services are there. So Mr. Malik has very clearly defined and informed us about the four new labor codes, which are going to hit us anytime now, starting with April 1 by 1. And are we ready for them, and what changes we have in store and what we need to do? So based on his presentation, I have collected 4 challenges which any HR or a compliance person will face in an organization related to these 4 codes. And then my question is that how do you rate a quality of an unbiased perspective of a specialist, and coupling it with your own local operational expertise therein, and creating a structure? Now, this kind of events, like the entire revamp of labor codes, they don't happen every day. They are happening after a while, and nobody stores a capacity, inbuilt capacity or a redundant capacity of having their own specialist in house, just waiting that when a revamp happens, they can, change everything around the corner. But since this is the right moment that we have now specialist services available, which will help take this one-time load of the corporates of the entire restructuring. So, we'll come to that. First, let's see what are the 4 challenges which Mr. Malik has just highlighted. One is obviously the IR code. What is IR code all about? It is about setting terms and conditions with our employees. So you must be wondering why your company is having an HR policy or employee handbook. Is it really required? Why do companies have it? They have it because they don't have standing orders. They have it because there are some terms and conditions which need to be put in. But now these terms and conditions have to be regulated. So question is, how do I align all my documents like HR policy, employee handbook with these new codes? And as Mr. Malik has told us, there are very many changes. So we need to incorporate that in our policy books, handbooks, websites, codes, and the standing orders, if any, if there are any, and certain clauses which need to be built into our appointment letters. So first challenge is the documentation part, HR policies, appointment letters, contracts with us, with our contractors, with outsourcing agencies, whatsoever it is. Moving on to the next bigger challenge, which I believe I have captured from this presentation, is wage restructuring. Now, wage, there have been numerous cases in high courts and Supreme Courts regarding wage and wage structure. Why? That means it was not clear. That means wage had a different definition for everything and anything. And hence we need to jump to the courts to, get the correct interpretation. Why? Because we were so far used to looking at the loopholes in the system of the wages. And our consultants or our guides, we used to interpret it or look at them in a way that is best suited to us, not in a way the intent of the act was. So the way of looking at it resulted in disputes, and the loopholes which provided us a way of looking into these in a particular manner also contributed. The new codes have simplified everything. They say it is this way or that way. It is very clear. It's crisp. It's to the point. The wage definition is very crisp, to the point. How much allowances you can get is crisp. It's to the point. We must have already gone through the definition of wages so many times. We know that you cannot have allowances more than 50% subject to terms and conditions, beyond which it will again become a basic wage or a base wage. And base wages, which is a wage for all purposes. And anything which is not base wage is in fact not a wage, but it's just an allowance. Now, since all these things are coming up, and we may have some structures not at worker level, because majority of people after EPF judgment have made changes at the minimum wage level or the lowest rung of workers salary structure to cover, because PF judgment was very umbrella kind of a judgment which said everything except HRA is a wage. In short, everything except HRA is a wage. And in some cases it also differentiated that in case it is any amount which is payable due to a special effort like incentive or bonus, production bonus, productivity bonus, or maybe overtime, these can be exempted, but then everything else was a base wage and PF was to be paid. So this was a very radical change, and then government itself realized that it will be bad, so it stopped inspection based on it, and the code came in. And code is much flexible. Code is much flexible in the sense it gave us a leeway, which this judgment took away from us. It says, okay, you can keep your basic wage at 50%, and you can have your allowances, including PF share of employer and bonus, including that to max of 50%. And I believe that in new draft codes, post-draft codes, post our suggestions we made to the government on making some changes, for the time being, for another 1 year, they'll even allow having allowances up to 75% of the total. Again, this will be a little complex thing. But again, challenge is this second challenge is wage restructuring. What could be the third challenge? Third challenge is manpower restructuring. Why the manpower restructuring? Manpower restructuring we need to do in case we have we have now an opportunity of engaging fixed term, unconditional fixed term engagement of manpower. We have an opportunity by way of reducing of limit under chapter 5B from 100 to 300, that is taking permission for retrenchment. That means we have a window open now where we can have on roll from 100 to 300. Another threat, the two were opportunities. The threat is that now in core areas, contract labor is no more there, and they have defined the non-core area. So this must be the third challenge which every organization is currently facing or should be thinking about, that how to restructure my own manpower. Now, the fourth challenge, which is more beyond which is not actually related to the codes, but is a side effect of the codes, is, or I have put it for strategizing for the Social Security Code in a wider perspective, is that once you have the new structure where you don't have contractor, you have fixed term people, your own people, you have a different set of promotions and different set of insecurities coming in with the fixed term people. How do you build this culture inside? For building a culture, you need to have corporate communication, HR related communication, cultural alignments inside, and documentation according to that, which will help us in social restructuring, a social dialogue team in place, some such things. So my question to you is, I have picked these four challenges. You, in your mind, in your thinking right now, visualize what could be your top three immediate challenges in here. If you think about your top three immediate challenges in your mind, then I'll tell you what my answers are. But you need to visualize them now so that you know what you need to do once you go back. Before moving on to my answers and giving you some time to figure out your three challenges at your place back there, I'll give you a little introduction of mine here at this point. Mr. Pawan has already informed that I did my engineering and an HR and MBA in HR and an LLB. So how does that help in being an effective outside perspective in devising new strategy for the revamped HR? In addition to that, I have been looking at these codes from various angles. For example, a company secretary will look at a code from a different angle. He'll say, okay, what all checklist I have to take. HR may be looking at the code from a different angle, that, okay, what all the safeguards I need to build in. A owner maybe looking at the code from a different angle, that what costs and implications it is bringing in, or what liabilities I need to reduce. A lawyer, for that matter, will look at the perspective of the code. Once a situation happens, then how to contain that. Not from first three are looking at in pre-mediating, preemptive way before thing happens, and lawyer is looking at if it has happened, what all I can do to minimize the outcomes which may be there. So to me, or you must have written one of the following 5 things in your notebooks by now, or in your mind, visualize that we have to, in fact, the challenge before us is to reinvent the HR process, and this is a good time. So what all we need to restructure? We need to restructure our entire set of documentation, starting from appointment letters, wage slips, our model standing orders, handbooks, HR books, the way we communicate with people, the way we classify them. Another thing we need to look at is the wage structure. We need to look at it now, how the wage structure is going to be, what is the percentage of HRA, what all kind of allowances I have to give, kind of thing. Third thing you must be thinking how I will have a people mix if I have to pull everybody out of my core function. I'll come in detail on each of these subsequently in my subsequent slides. Once you say, okay, you need to have fixed term and you have a limit of 300 and you had earlier 500 contract people, you may also be looking at the headcount management. Headcount management means how I can become more productive. Can I reduce headcount, or do I need to increase headcount because of these changes? So this is again another restructuring we need to look at it. Now the new culture which we will be setting in, from having a 58 years permanent employees who cannot be thrown out without a procedure at 58 years, and another set of employees who know they have to anyways go after 1 year, and if everything goes well and extremely well, they can even get another chance. So the two different cultures will creep in our manpower, which will be there. Now coming to the base on this, what I'm saying is that this is a good opportunity for us to pause at this time, and this opportunity has been given to us by the new codes, and a time also given to us where we can buy and tell our management that we need to pause because this is an event which is happening, and think. So I believe it's a boon in disguise that we have one-time opportunity to do what? To overhaul the entire HR processes and systems, to again rethink how the HR processes are going to be, how I am going to manage all the 4 or 5 challenges or points which I have just jotted down in my mind earlier. How I align every stakeholder in the system to my new thinking, to my new overhaul manner, because there'll be always a resistance to change. So I have to take my CFO on board, my management on board, my operations head on board, and my employees on board for that matter. So during this process, I was also wondering, is government liaison your strength? If government liaison is your strength, then you need it the most. You need to restructure your HR the most. Why? Because government liaison needed to be a strength when you were misinterpreting or interpreting every law according to your benefit, or making best use of the loopholes therein in the each earlier labor law. So if government liaison in your organization is your strength, you need to restructure, because now there is left, everything is covered. All interpretations are standardized. As Mr. Padik has informed, there's a unique and universal definition across the codes on wages, on worker, on employee, on who will get the benefit, on who all is covered. So pause and check your vulnerability or your area. So now let's come back one by one, come back to the challenges. So why HR policies is my challenge 1. See, if we look at earlier labor laws, and if we question who needed protection and who has it, we have the answer. In fact, those who actually needed protection never got it in those codes, because Equal Remuneration Act, for example, applied only to those people who have salary of 1,500 or less, 800 or less. Payment of wages applied only to those people who had salary of 21,000 earlier, 24,000 now or less. So that means a supervisor in an IT company who's drawing 25,000, or executive or call center or software engineer drawing above 24,000 could not earlier go to the labor inspector or had no alternate mechanism available in this area. So now you look at number of employees who have this alternate quick mechanism or redressal available under the new codes is surely going to increase your load. In addition, government has also put an online complaint, anonymous complaint mechanisms or feedback mechanisms where people anyway can put in and invite people for inspection of our systems and processes. That means we have to be right now geared up to take on head on this enlarged ambit. So that means we have to align our policies with the new ecosystem which is coming in. So looking at specifics, Equal Remuneration Act and increment policy. Now, Equal Remuneration Act has been made part of the wage code itself, and it says earlier it was very specific that female has to be given equal wage as to man. Now it says that everybody has to, for the same kind of work, has to have a equal remuneration. Now it is not as simple that they'll have a same basic or same HRA. They will also have an equal opportunity to have overtime. It is not that only male staff will have overtime in the evening and female has to go. You have to provide equal opportunity. Your appointment letter has also to give career advancement opportunities in itself, and you have to make them equal for male and female, that how each of them can progress in the career, how you propose to help them progress in their career. You even need to have a similar increment policy and reasons why somebody is being given, documented reasons, a higher, a male is being given higher or a female is being given higher. And the limit that who all are covered is gone now. That means it is no more workers. It is a wider limit up till 18,000 and above at least, and then the limit gets extended. Then Payment of Wages Act, again, it applies to everybody, and it has extended its scope to all kind of people beyond 24,000 and in all kind of employments, scheduled or non-scheduled. That means everybody who is employed, whether it's a shop, small setup, CA's forum, advocate's office, everybody get to fall under it. Now, with this new set of employees, as we are thinking, which will land up in our ecosystem, we have to also have a new understanding of wage. What wage is? Wage is, it says that wage is only the base wage is a wage, and HRA, conveyance, and certain allowances given in the definition of wage are not in fact wages. So if you have a wage structure which says a minimum wage is, for example, 12,000, and you say basic is 10 and 2,000 is HRA, and I'm complying with minimum wage, the Act says HRA is not a wage. It is beyond the wage. So another thing, Mr. Malik said, it has become very simple that now once you cross 300, you can just go and adopt the model standing orders. We really need to check, because each organization has a different set of requirements. Model standing orders may or may not suffice, or may increase documentation load onto us. But what we need to look into it is that if somebody thinks that, does my HR policy need employee approval before you implement it? Yes. In fact, even before, when certified standing orders were being made, the employee's representative has to be consulted and has to give consent before they were certified. So similar thing has been built in the new codes. So that means two things. One, if I have my company's HR policy, which is beyond the model, which has a scope which goes beyond the model standing orders, we may need an employee approval before we implement it. And some authority need to endorse it also to make it certified. So in IT and other companies where we have 300 executives, associates, or employees, the model standing code will start getting applicable to us. And once we cross that number, we have 6 months time to have the standing orders implemented in our place, to have the standing orders in. So this is a timeline we are having once the code takes in, and if we are having an organization or dealing with an organization with over 300 people, we need to get our own HR policies and standing orders in place. Obviously, till that place, it doesn't mean that nothing applies. Even below 300 or otherwise, the model standing orders anyways apply. So again, as I just mentioned earlier, the question is it a good idea to just get the model standing order certified as it is, or do we need to add some other items to protect employers' interest? Yes, there are a number of things. For example, there's a provision where if somebody goes on a strike, you can deduct up to 7 days of wages for the act of going on strike. But this thing has to be put in a standing order, which is not there in model standing orders, or it has to be made part of appointment letter. There are such small things. Transfer. It could be a generic transfer in model standing orders, but we may say we may like to add a transfer clause. For example, in some companies, I suggested to add a transfer clause, something which reads something like this, that you can be transferred to our vendors, customers, or any other location of our interest in India, instead of saying that you can be transferred to another factory, to another department. So now this gives me a very wide scope to my customer, vendor, and any other place where I have a substantial interest, something like that. So this way I can send a TV manufacturing company can send its technician for troubleshooting at a showroom selling its TVs. If this clause is there, if it is not there, it is not possible. The IR code also talks about having a bargaining agent, negotiating counsels, and the act clearly tells there are certain percentage of numbers, a minimum number, which needs to be protected because they are the bargaining unit, so that they can fearlessly bargain and ask questions to the management. And we need to be all set and ready to face this new ecosystem where employees will get to know from the codes, and then they start asking that we want to be bargaining agents, or we want to be a negotiating counsel, and how we are going to manage. I have seen in many companies and IT companies and telecom companies, they are doing it in some other way. They call it open house or employee court or something like that, where they call all employees who can speak up, represent their department, or call certain employees from each department. They represent their department problems, solutions, difficulties, give suggestions. Now the court says now you have to regularize that. It has to be done in a manner, and there is a manner and format which is given. So why don't you regularize it? And though even in the current Industrial Dispute Act under Rule 57(4), there is an annual report of a works committee which needs to be submitted, annual return. But I have hardly come across companies which genuinely submit reports of works committee meetings, or works committee meeting is meeting with the employees on their issues and the solutions which they come across. IR code also asks us to have mandatory committees. We need to have works committee if we have 100 or more people, redressal committee, grievance redressal committee if we have 20 or more people, a committee where employee if feel aggrieved can go to, internal complaints committee, obviously sexual harassment committee. And new act is also promoting arbitration. So I've written yes, that you have enabled your contracts, agreements, and general policies to throw in this clause of arbitration, that in case of dispute, in case it is not being redressed properly, even through our redressal committee and subsequently through works committee. Before you go to a labor inspector, let's put it to the arbitration team and let's try to arbitrate it, kind of a system. So these systems, these HR policies, these overall redoing of our system is now a desired thing. Again, I have already mentioned this. Standing orders and model standing orders are one, but we need to customize certain conditions for certain set of employees. And they need to be in tune with the codes. So we need to redo all the appointment letters, check whether they're compliant, and then customize for certain set of employees, certain clauses which can be thrown in at times for us, each specific work or area. Now, coming to the second challenge, which is wage restructuring. Why I've said eliminating liabilities while we can, because somebody asked me that, okay, today I am having a minimum wage of 12,000, for example, and I'm paying 10,000 basic and 2,000 is HRA. Suppose the new code comes, okay, I'll reduce HRA to 0 and make basic wage 12,000 and get compliant. It's a very extreme example, and some other such allowances which will be there. Now, my answer was that employee will say that HRA is my right, which has accrued to me over a time. And my basic, you were underpaying me my basic wage, and HRA is not a wage. So you cannot take away my right to HRA, while you have to increase your basic to meet with the new codes. So if we do not restructure by the time the new code has hit in, there will be some allowances or some amounts which will be paying to these people, to our employees, which will become their right because of they being there for a long time. And they cannot be cut down or merged to get compliant with the new structures. So this liability we have to work out now, what all can be cut and merged and what all cannot be cut and merged. So that we have to restructure and think of it now. Again, as I just told in a while back, that can I call HRA or a conveyance, which is by part of my wage structure, a wage? In case of minimum wage, we already know, no, it is not a part of wage. We will, even if we are paying it, it's not a wage. But in other cases, can I call it a wage? Well, it will not be a wage, because there are certain set of allowances which are given the definition of wage, which are allowances, they are not wage. So how is that going to impact us? It is in the ESI, we are paying ESI on the total amount. So the good thing is now we'll be paying ESI on a lesser amount because my wage is no more HRA. So I'll not be deducting ESI on HRA. And earlier I was even deducting ESI on conveyance, but recent judgment clarified it that conveyance is not a wage, because they are also starting judiciary is also starting interpreting things in tune with the new codes. So now I am not deducting it on conveyance. And once new codes come in, I'll not be even deducting ESI on HRA. So my ESI will be on a lesser part. And for that matter, right now, I deduct ESI on a different amount and PF on a different amount. But once we have a uniform definition of wage, I'll be doing PF, ESI, gratuity, leave encashment on a same figure or a same amount, which we will call wage. Now, this is another interesting question. Will the wage rate for OT be different for 8 hours and 12 hours duty guard? It looks at the first instance, it looks that wage rate will be same. Why it will be different? Because it's only a wage rate. I am paying 12,000 plus 4 hours extra on a 12-hour duty guard. Again, this is to bring back to you to the clause in the definition of wages, which says that in case wages increases, the allowances or overtime or other factors increases more than the wage itself, that means 50% of the total, then the balance gets added back to the wage. That means in case you are having an overtime of 4 hours, which is equivalent to 8 hours, you have already crossed the limit. So that extra portion will next month get added back to your base wage. So your rate of overtime will start increasing with a factor by which you are spilling over 50% of your allowances. Again, we have always been disputing that gratuity has to be paid on total notice period. In the appointment letter, we ask person to deposit only basic or a full basic, or when we are firing somebody, we say, should we fire somebody with a notice of one basic wage or entire full total wage per gross wage. This has been clarified in the new codes. The wage is the wage, which we call base wage, and it's not allowances. So we will have a one single definition. So in the senior positions where we have kept basic as low as 20%, 25%, 30%, for them also, the spillover of allowances, when they fall back in the definition of basic, so suddenly our liabilities related to gratuity, to overtime, to EPF, to terminal benefits, to leave encashment, they are going to rise accordingly. The Act says that anybody for whom the minimum wage has been defined by the government is also entitled to overtime. So up to some level, the executives, the associates who fall in the definition of those to whom minimum wage will be applicable, they have to be paid overtime. And there is no provision of giving compensatory leaves in lieu. It has to be either overtime or no overtime. Under the new definition, overtime will now only be calculated on base wage or basic wage, and we need not include HRA and conveyance. But then HRA and conveyance cannot go beyond 30% of the total, because the employer share of PF and bonus and HRA and conveyance altogether cannot go beyond the base wage, or cannot be more than 50% of the total wage. Some people were thinking that we pay just the minimum wage, but then to keep our base wage in control, but then to compensate them because we are not getting people in the same minimum wage, we pay them other incentive like attendance allowance, uniform allowance, other such things. Will it keep it in control? No, as I said, that other freebies and incentives and allowances which we are giving, including overtime, they cannot go beyond a percentage which government is going to decide, and they will surely impact our base wage. Person was saying that now we have, since for senior people, kept base wage 20%. Now suddenly if we take it to 50%, our gratuity bill on balance sheet will suddenly go high. What is the option? So I was also thinking that, have you explored ESOP for a win-win solution? ESOP will in fact not affect the salary structure, but will give us higher CTC without impacting the base wage and without impacting those factors which result in a higher terminal wage, gratuity, leave encashment. So this is another option which can be explored at, but when? It has to be done before the actual implementation of the code start. So what, in simple words, this is headcount restructuring, the challenge 3. The advantages so far which we were taking from the Contract Labor Act, which was abolishable, but we have seldom seen anybody getting it abolished, because neither inspector nor employer nor contractor ever wanted it to be abolished. And employees, because of their job security or insecurity, were also part of it. Now that journey, now with this new course, there is a journey from abolishable to abolished, which we have to do. That means now the advantages which we were taking from the contract labor will no more be there. So we have to be ready to take impact of those. The two major things which have happened in a Contract Labor Act are, one, that it cannot be deployed in core area. So one of my client was saying that, see, I am maintaining towers, telecom towers, and have hired people to fill diesel in those towers, in gensets of those towers. And filling diesel is not my core area. So I think I am not impacted. So as Mr. Malik has already told, the definition is not of core areas, definition is of non-core areas. So once he goes to the labor department to get a registration, so labor department say, I have only 4 options to take. Is it a housekeeping? Is it a security? Is it a gardening? It is a driver related jobs. And you'll say no. Then he says, sorry, I cannot issue you any license beyond that. Some of the people were saying that we've hired clerks to do data entry work. Well, that's not our core work. We are just doing data entry. We are into something else. No, again, as I told, we have to run it through the same check. We tick on the non-core activity. Which non-core activity does it fall in? If it falls in none of the defined non-core activity, it is a core activity. And if it is a core activity, it cannot be outsourced. So fixed term, earlier also there was a condition of fixed term in the Industrial Dispute Act, which said that for a particular process, for a particular project, you can hire a fixed term. But now government says that no, you need not have any pretext. You can just hire fixed term, but pay them. Don't deprive them of anything. There are 2 reasons behind this thinking. One reason is that when we are taking away contract labor from the core areas, and employer is little insecure hiring directly on their own roles for permanent liability. So this is a window which has been provided that we can hire fixed term for a fixed period with no liability beyond the said liability which you fix in their appointment letter. So we need to look at this opportunity and look how we can take maximum advantage out of it. For fixed term, if we want to retrench them, we don't require permission. Notice is already built in. Earlier, for the regular employees, if they are more than 100, now more than 300, even today, you have to take a permission to retrench. You have to give them notice of 1 to 3, below 300, 1 month notice, above 300 people, 3 months notice now in the new codes. 15 days per year retrenchment compensation, and you have to follow a LIFO system, last in, first out, not the deadwood first and the good people later, not like that. And then you have to have VRS schemes and other such things in place. But does that mean that I can hire fixed terms every year and year on year unconditionally and keep my system agile? Well, that needs to be looked in the culture building section, and we need to see what kind of culture we want to put in the place. So we have to look at the various options, which is third-party team lease. Again, we are just outsourced payrolling services. Some people call payrolling, third-party team lease. What works? Well, payrolling, anybody on another company's roles is a contractor employee. We can also give service level contracts. Will that not be a contract? Will that be deploying contract labor in the core areas? For example, I instead of employing contractor employees, I give a contract of diesel filling to somebody in my premises. Will that work? No, it is again doing core work through third-party employees. Well, in contractors case, we sometimes don't give full bonus, because if my company is profitable, I give contractor only 8.33% bonus and my employees get 20%. Because as per Contract Labor Act and even the new codes, the minimum liability of a contractor is 8.33%. Beyond that is not of principal employer, is of contractor's establishment. But once you have fixed term, you have to give bonus at the same rate what you're giving to on-roll employees. And also, we need not wait for fixed term employees for 5 years to be eligible for gratuity. It gets clicked at 1 year itself. Some people may even have a question like this, that, okay, if fixed term is such a good thing, so whosoever leaves, we will not have a new employee coming in. We'll just replace the person with FTC. And eventually one day, after a couple of years, we'll have 100% FTC working and we will have a very agile structure. Well, we need to think more on it and see how we plan to replace the attrition and how the system will eventually work. Coming to the final challenge, cultural alignment and foolproof documentation. So the mix of employees which we are thinking of managing now will be something like permanent, regular, contractors, fixed term, gig workers, need trainees, apprentices. So do we have a common uniform model standing order which government and new codes are prescribing? Do we have some customization in each category? What kind of documentations we have? How we are ensuring their loyalty and productivity if you know that you are anyways going out after 1 year and you'll be at mercy of your boss to be for the extension, vis-a-vis the person who says even my boss cannot throw me out, kind of two different extreme set of cultures, for example, that we need to all address. In certain cases, if, for example, if your manager is also working on overtime, not manager, your supervisor is, for example, working on overtime, will he encourage more overtime because he is also clicking on the overtime himself, which was so far we were denying him and telling him you take a compensatory of no overtime. So there'll be a cultural change in the thinking at supervisory level or first level of team leads. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's an online anonymous complaint system by state governments and central government, which will be there. So employees will be anyway more like a glass door thing, putting what is lacking in the system, and more such complaints pour in, the inspector or a facilitator, now we call facilitator, will have an opportunity to come and audit your systems and discover more of the Pandora's and open the Pandora's box. Now, equal opportunity is applying to everybody. So this is another challenge which needs to be looked in. Leave encashment. Earlier, leaves used to lapse and beyond 30 days, and based on certain shop acts, factory acts 30 days, based on state shop acts varied from 30 to 40 days. Beyond that, leaves used to lapse. But now leave encashment has been made right. So beyond 30, it is not lapsing. You have to encash it. And there is also provision that in case employee wants them to be encashed altogether, he say, okay, don't credit any leaves. I want 0 leaves, encash everything. Even that provision is there. So are we ready for that kind of mindset? Some people are thinking that how about having gig workers? For example, what all processes which can be put from fixed term to the gig worker. So, well, if you have regular drivers on rolls, we can lease through Uber. If we are managing our own guest houses, I've just given some ideas. We can tie up with Oyo. Some people have given pantry to Zomato and some other company, I'm missing the name. We can have LTC annual meets outsourced to some gig organization which is giving travel tour packages, maintenance activities through UCLAP, Urban Clap. So these all things need to be explored. Now coming back to the first slide, the quality of an unbiased perspective of a specialist. Well, this does make a sense at this hour because this is a one-time change which everybody needs to go in for. And a specialist can have a guide, has a macro view of the all the challenges and give a small suggestion which your own operational local expertise can grasp and grab and can put all the systems in order and set the house in order, minimize the liabilities. So once you go back, you can have your own brainstorming on all these 4 challenges. We want you to go back to your organization and sit with your people and say, this could be a standard, small suggested schedule which you can have, and then see what your areas require priority, and then you can have an action plan in place so that you are ready for the codes. Thank you, and we request your feedback on this.
Thank you, Joravarji. Very nice and very effective. You have correctly pointed out, and you have hit the nail at the right place. Okay, so you have given so many explanations, so many planning, but simultaneously you have created so many questions also in the mind of participant. So I have received various questions. So because we have so many questions and people want to ask their answer, so I'm starting with you, okay, and with both of you. You just because we have more than 50 questions, so I hope if we can be very brief, we can have more answers. Malik sir, is there any difference between gig and platform workers?
Is there?
Yes.
Is there a difference between gig and platform workers?
Is there any difference between gig and platform worker?
Actually, this is a separate type of employment, which normal organizations may not be having. The only organization specifically having will be Uber, Zomato, Swiggy. They'll be having a class of organizations. Now, gig workers are more like who are on field, which are working on 2 or more companies together. Platform workers are who are working on same platform like Urban Clap and delivering with multiple clients using the same platform.
Okay, so Ola and Uber will come in gig and the Urban Clap will come in platform.
Correct.
Okay, Malik sir, is there any minimum number of time before gratuity become applicable? Sir, you have to unmute yourself. Malik sir.
In the normal course, the law remains the same. The entitlement is date to date 5 years. But in the case of the fixed term employee, the law has been restructured to ensure that a fixed term employee has no disadvantage and gratuity will be payable on annual basis.
Okay.
Every year, and suppose it's 2 years, so they can pay at the end.
Okay.
I'll just add one thing to it, that in case of sales promotion employees and journalists, the period is 3 years now. And sales promotion employees in erstwhile code were only those who were medical reps or in pharma companies. But in the current codes, the scope has been expanded to every sales promotion employee.
Okay. Malik sir.
Yes.
Now, you know, in India, everything is planned with a positive mind. But our political parties and those who want to create something differently, they create problem. Tell me, will this law, which is implementable from 1st April, will see the light of the day, or it will be the fate of the Kisan Andolan?
This is a $1 million question. $1 million question. Now let me put it very straight. The government is very much determined to do it. There is no controversy. Since I have been at the back of it, I can tell you openly that this law is nothing of a figment of imagination. We and the team had created this law not out of imagination, but totally on the basis of existing case law. There cannot be challenge on this even in the court. I'm so confident. Now was the question of the bureaucracy obstructing it for the bad reasons. Now what has happened is the central government has cracked the whip and forced every state government to come out with the rules. That was the biggest blunder block, that the state governments were not ready with the rules. So how will you implement it? So first of all, Government of India has come out with the rules and told the state governments to come out with it. And almost all the state governments have are ready with the rules, at least the wage code and the IR code. So the stages are that, what the possibility, the plausibility is that something which is easiest and everybody's done it. So we'll start with the wage code, and something which is least of discontinuity and is very, very simple is the IR code, because it is carrying the other codes with it with some very good changes. Therefore, that is again easy. So I expect, this is my estimate, that these two codes, the rules are ready, everything is ready, and people are prepared. These two will come. There's nothing, and there is no comparison absolutely with the farm laws. You see, that was something very, very diabolically different, because you are going to abolish a whole institution. Whereas in the labor laws, the old institutions, the authorities are continuing with better rules and framework of performance and limitation.
Okay. Joravarji, what are the minus point in this bill which people can, political party or anybody or trade union will, because their business runs on when there is hesitation. So in which area, like there is a one layoff issue that you can lay off of 300 less than 300 workers company without anything. Will it not be a negative point? And what is the solution for this?
The 300 figure has already been implemented in Punjab, Haryana, under the current law itself. So new codes will not change anything. We are already at 300. And it has been there for last 3 years. Now, what is happening is that in these 3 years, we have not seen people retrenching people here and there. The only purpose of increasing it from 100 to 300 is that people who we need workers once contract labor is moved out from the core purposes, where we put them. So we have to put them there. If we put them in fixed term, so that will increase the number of headcount. So to give that leeway of another 200 people to be adjusted, it has been taken from 100 to 300. Now unions will object it on two fronts. One, the fixed term contract is an exploitative thing, as some people were thinking that, okay, every year we will issue a new fixed term contract, whom we don't want, we'll throw out, we'll have only productive employees, and create insecurity in mind of employees. So this is, and having insecurity means lesser bargaining power of new people who are on fixed term. That is one part of it. So they'll try to invoke courts and say this is a sham contracts, for which we need to be cautious in drafting fixed term contracts right away. Though they have said an unconditional, but once we have been suggesting our clients, even then we will not go for unconditional fixed term contracts. We'll put some relation to the project and work, something like that, so that unions don't exploit it later on. Another thing is, which is a very academic kind of a thing, if you have only single union, you require 33% people as a member to raise a demand notice. But if you have two unions, you need 51% people to be member of unions. So the unions are crying that this will give an employer an idea of floating own employers union in the system, so that it can keep 50 people in the union below 51% and scuttle the demand notice process.
Okay.
Let me add here.
Yeah, Malik sir, you want to say something? You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Let me add here.
Sir, what I'll do, I'll ask question not one by one. I'll ask 3-4 questions from you, 3-4 questions, because you are sitting on the same place. So the voice is echoing. Yeah.
No, I make it very simple. No, I will coordinate. No problems. Let me tell you, for the information of all, that the limitation of the benchmark of 300 workers was implemented. We were one of the first to do it in Haryana, and it was challenged. And even after my retirement, I was looking at that litigation, and that High Court has upheld it. Number two, the issue is of restructuring. When the rights are given, then the question of 100 or 300 is not there at all. The next subject is about
trade unions. Let me tell you that the Supreme Court has already upheld Section 4, where it is provided that the union must have, you cannot have roadside unions anymore. This Sangh and that union, no roadside unions. A union, if has to get itself registered, must have 10% workers of the organization in the union. And if they don't have it, they cannot. Now that very material we have incorporated in the IR code. Therefore, see, if somebody wants to go ahead with any kind of litigation, they all know it. Inside them, they are very well aware of this litigation, and they will not and they cannot do anything about it. And such agitation is not possible. And I'll tell you the third most important thing. Up till now, what is the problem with labor laws? That you are controlling only, you are implementing only in the organized sector, which is not even 10% of the working population. And now we are incorporating it, the whole lot. We are going to cover a larger number of working population for ensuring rights under these laws. So it is all in favor. Let me tell you, it's all in favor now.
Okay. Sir, Joravarji, whether it is automatic shift to new regulation or whether we would to have a separate regulation registration again?
Though the Act says that we will have to have a separate registration for sure, though our current registrations will automatically also move into the new registration. So it is like linking Aadhaar to the PAN number, something like that.
But I have to do registration.
Yes, have a unique number to which all the registrations will then get linked.
Okay. Malik sir, whether ESI, Malik sir, whether ESI registration is required even if all employees of the company are drawing salary more than the threshold?
No, the threshold will sustain, and it is upon the company to provide other systems. Now, let me, for the information of all, we are heading for a universal social security number, for which we will have to bring in people on board. PF has a limit of 15,000. ESI has a limit of 21,000. Initially, we are covering the lower ranks, and the limits will be universalized at 21. This is in the offing. Why the government has stopped till now? Because raising the limit of PF from 15 to 21,000, coverage will be more. There will be an extra financial burden on the companies. Therefore, because of the pandemic and the economic problems, the government did not want to put any burden on the employer, so it has restrained itself from bringing in the new limits. But ultimately, when we have larger coverage, we need to have universal system. As you've already observed, the government has announced PF and ESI for even gig workers. So therefore, we'll have to have one universal social security number. So people who are above the limit, initially nothing for them. Later on, yes, something may come, the government may come out with some kind of scheming of options. But right now, we don't even have the infrastructure to cater to that kind of numbers. Right now, we must attend to the lower rungs of the working population, which needs the services most.
Okay. Joravarji, whether TCS, IBM, Infosys type of big IT company who are giving IT project are treated as contractors. What are the obligation of principal employer with respect to such contractors?
The question is not clear to me.
Whether TCS, IBM or big IT company who are giving IT project are treated as contractor. Like somebody is giving project and they are doing.
For example, TCS is doing a project with Government of India.
Yeah. So
their employees are coming into government office.
Yeah.
So in fact, they are contractors.
So what are the obligation of principal employer with respect to such contractors?
Even currently, and in new ports, the premises, even the premises owner, principal employer, and the contractor are jointly and severally liable for the payment for the civil part.
Okay. Okay. Malik sir, briefly explain the impact of each code on all employer point of view. I think this is a big question, so you can just summarize this. We have various questions, or I can cover it at the last.
Yeah, I think the end is a little better in the end.
But what HR need to make when the new code become effective in CTC restructuring? Malik sir.
They need to plan. First of all, as I said, the primary thing is business with productivity and profitability. For that, they need to structure. That herd hiring is no more. All HR, it is more actually in the operations. Number one, operations, the head of operations must plan. The finance must audit what is going to be the cost difference. And the HR must provide solutions for the manning on the basis of the matrix which Mr. Zorawar had just explained. They are regular, they are fixed term, they are contractual, they are neat workers, they are apprentices, they are company training. So these people need to, the HR need to meet the requirement of the production people by giving proper solution. So the planning is necessary and cost effectiveness is necessary. Otherwise, we are in trouble.
I will like to
say, yeah.
Add on your question was on the wage structure, what HR need to do regarding the wage structure.
For the entire preparation.
No. The new code become effective and CTC restructuring.
CTC restructuring and the new code. I have actually some of my clients have asked a simple question. I told them that existing payroll software will not be able to address it. The reason being that now we will have just two components. One is basic, one is allowances. And everything else in your previous software, 10, 20 allowances, they have to be finally merged into these two components, basic and allowances. And then once we have these two components, basic and allowances bifurcated, then we have to have allowances if more than 50% fall back into basic, and then we have to have a base wage for every month calculated, and then average of this base wage will be used for paying all the emoluments.
Okay. Malik sir, one ICC is sufficient or it is required at each branch office?
Yeah, whether, please say that again.
One ICC is sufficient or it is required at each branch office?
Internal complaints committee member.
No, it has to be at every center, and it is actually there's no provision strictly giving out a structure for it. But the better thing would be at every office wherever there is an operating unit. It would be better to have a common, but it will have to be shared at the corporate level to ensure that if there is a problem in the system, it must be addressed at the organizational level. But otherwise, unit is better. Law does not prescribe anything like this. It has to have a complaint system, that's all.
Okay. Joravarji, are there provision remedies that protect the employer companies from preventing skilled employee from being poached?
From skilled employee from being?
Poached. Other companies should not poach that employee. They will lure and then take away. I have the employee and then somebody is taking over.
Good. In the previous question, I just wanted to add that there's a provision of having a whistleblower's number on the website, which every company has to maintain a ICC member's number on the website anyways. The objective is to every employee having a knowledge whom to approach. There is no such provision as stopping the poaching in the new codes. However, there's a recent judgment by one of the high courts which says that if there is a notice period prescribed in the appointment letter, employee can only leave after giving that notice pay or the notice period, an employer can stop the leaving letter. Sir, your voice is not coming.
The problem with the industry is they are saying we are developing, we are giving a skill, we are spending, and somebody is giving 1 month notice or 2 month notice and going to the competitor. So they are facing big problem. So the point is the solution you have given in your slides. The ESOP is one of the solution, which is the one part where people can work out in unlisted company, non-startup company, because it's listed and startup company, they are the very, this instrument is popular. But in
Correct.
unlisted company also, this can be one of the tools.
This can be one of the tools, but HR people are not aware about this tool. And so far, hardly CA, the accounting head and the HR seldom used to come together.
That's why, Joravar Singh, we are here. We will organize one program on how to restructure your base, which can protect you for this poaching through the ESOP. That our team and your team will work together, and we will bring out and
Yes.
have one program after 2 weeks.
I just wanted to add one more thing to it. Having liquidated damages in the contract is little abrasive and not good. ESOP is a win-win kind of situation.
Yeah, that's will do. Malik sir, how to motivate marketing team or appreciate them? High performance would lose its hope in the new wage code. What to do in this case?
What is this? Say that again. Sorry.
How to motivate marketing team or appreciate them? High performers would lose its hope in the new wage code. What to do in this case? So first is it correct that marketing team will lose? And second is, if it is, then how they should correct this?
You see, it is the market is not going to be competitive only for the business. It is going to be very competitive for skills also, and that is why the question of poaching has come in. The HR, the organization must have a very innovative approach to this. ESOP is one. The incentives are one. And incentives can be staggered. Incentives can be paid at quarterly basis, 6 monthly basis, annual basis. If they don't have certain terms and conditions, somebody has to apply their mind on how to do it. If these incentives are not in place, you are not paying again, we are coming back to what Zorawar has explained very elaborately, that you have to have a very strategic wage structure according to the need of the organization.
Okay. Sir, now the time is very short and we have various questions. So I will my questions and answer will be very quick and short.
Just
So,
hardly a
Joravarji,
few seconds, Zorawar will attend to the question for a minute. Just a minute.
Okay, Joravarji, what about the part-time service providers, sweepers, gardener, and are engaged, etc. engaged?
So part-time has a provision. If you fix a part-time specifically for half day or 1 day, you can have them. Though the code says that anybody who's deployed for more than 1 hour has to be paid for full day, otherwise will be considered laid off for the balance of the time and will be paid laid off compensation.
Okay, can employer advertise vacancy targeting gender? For example, required sales executive male or required receptionist female?
No, well, this is not possible because under the equal remuneration clause, equal opportunity clause, everybody has to be given equal opportunity. You cannot write a experienced male truck driver or experienced receptionist in your advertisement.
Driver is always male, so should I write that I require a driver?
Yes.
And can be any gender.
That's why I've given you extreme example. You cannot say experienced male driver, truck driver, or a beautiful receptionist for my office. That is a gender specific. And your first question, which was regarding incentivization of marketing team, somebody must have sent that question with the mind that in case we have to pay equal remuneration, how can we differentiate between more productive employee and less productive employee if we have to pay them equal under equal remuneration? The answer is we need to have a documented incentive policy in place, and we have given 30% allowances.
Okay.
To cover that.
Okay. Malik sir, will one-time payments like performance bonus be a part of basic bonus, basic wages?
Like performance bonus, you see, we are not talking about performance bonus at all. Let us be very different, very clear on what is bonus and what is incentive. A bonus is a bonus, and it is what is defined in the bonus law. We will not mix it up.
Well, let me answer that. Simply, in the month, in that particular month, your base wage is 50 rupees, but your allowances, including performance bonus, is 200 rupees. For that particular month, that balance above 50 rupees will, half of that will fall back into the base wage. For that particular month, the base wage will be higher. And all systems work on average base wage. So for 3 months, your average will be tipsy-topsy. So it is better to reduce the interval of payment of incentives.
Okay, okay. Sir, can somebody is asking, can we have a model employee manual?
We can have a model employee manual, but it has to be consistent with model standing orders.
Okay, okay.
And
Sir,
if you have more than 300 people, then it has to be having a consent of employees and certified.
right.
Look, let me add here. You see, first of all, let's not confuse bonus and incentive. The system has to be very clear and transparent. That has been a basic issue right from the beginning. We've said it. The performance and all these things are with the person operating, not the HR. HR is only going to give a framework that these are things which will cost you something more. So you have to be very clear on that. The performance will have to be measured and calibrated, and the finance will have to say, this is my margin and this is what I am going to give in addition to wages. Only that amount can be distributed. We just can't have anything and everything, name anything on that. It's not the HR who will decide it.
Okay.
So we have to be very transparent and clear.
Sir, I have 17 more questions and we have 10 minutes. So
no
what
problem. Then we go on a fast run. We go on
what
a
I'm
fast
doing,
run.
I will start rapid round. No overlapping question and no double answer. We will give separately. And
give me 5 seconds.
So 5 questions I will ask you. 5 questions I will ask Joravar Singh ji. Okay. So, no cross question. Alex sir, what if company does not have encashing policy?
Incentive policy.
What if company does not have encashing policy?
Encashing what? Leave encashment.
Yeah.
No, they will have to follow the law.
Okay. Whether
policy.
Okay. I'll 5 questions you give answer, sir. Whether overtime will be payable to software engineer, company secretary, and other such employee sitting behind office hours for completion of work.
Overtime, yes, he's an employee.
Will the applicability of uniform labor code will be effective date of implementation or retrospective effect?
Never. It cannot be retrospective. It has to be from the date of notified.
Okay. Is there a reduction from 50% as basic clause to less of total monthly salary under consideration for reduction by central government? Basic recommendation from employee association.
Yes. Speak.
Yes, there is a proposal that government is now thinking of for just 1 year, making it 75%, making allowances 75%.
Okay.
This is specifically to cover the mid segment and high paid employees where basic has been tremendously low.
Okay, now Mujaravarji, you just the next question. To which company is Maternity Act applicable? What are the consequences of non-compliance?
Everybody which has 20 or more women employees, Maternity Benefit Act is applicable.
What are the non-compliance consequences?
Non-compliances are like female can claim for that amount and you have to pay 6 months wages to the in plus 50,000 of standard penalties for the court, 50,000 and after that 1.5 lakhs and after that arrest.
Okay. Is there any cap on overtime of OT payment per employee? What is the maximum number of hours an employee can be forced to work continuously? For example, can an employee work for 3 shifts non-stop? Joravarji.
In fact, OT is not allowed at all, because Act says that no person is can be allowed to work more than 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours, whatsoever this limit is. However, there are certain conditions under which OT can be employed where work cannot stop, or it is of emergent nature, or it pertains to preventive maintenance, or it can harm somebody's life, or it is a shift work where shift cannot be stopped. Under those circumstances, OT is allowed, and maximum number of hours under the new codes is 115 hours in a quarter, which can be allowed per employee, which comes to around 1.5 hours a day.
Okay. Apprenticeship will cover in PF as per new code, Joravarji.
The PF Act excludes apprentices so
Okay.
far.
Okay, Malik sir. Now I'll ask question continuously. Will one-time payment like performance bonus be part of basic wages? You have to unmute, sir.
One-time payment may be annual, but that will obviously be counted. It goes into that particular month.
Okay. Whether giving full and final settlement in 2 days is feasible provision?
Yes, full and final settlement has to be immediate. It has to be accounted for if a person is leaving or you retrenched, whatever, it has to be paid immediately.
Okay. In respect of gratuity calculation, how the impact on CTC to be addressed?
See, CTC is a concept of accounting. It has nothing to do with HR laws. This is a cost of HR, which we are trying to get back into a balance sheet. CTC is not a HR concept. Now the question is whether you are in the increased basic, have you kept that offset in your balance sheet, in your reserves? That is the question to be addressed.
Okay. Sir, does the annual incentive will be a part of wages should be covered under the prospect of to be in base percentage?
Percent, yes.
Okay. What is the validity period of ICC constituted?
Every day?
What is the validity period of ICC constituted? It's 1 year, 2 year, 3 years.
No, it is 1 year, but suppose they have notified that this will remain. You see, the democratic process is that if you have certain members, you have to notify every year. If you continue with them, there's not a problem.
Okay, but notify every year. Malik sir, can a female employee of a parent entity outside India be presiding officer?
Lady officer?
Can a female employee of a parent entity outside India be a presiding officer?
Presiding officer of what?
I think POSH and...
No, that is very clear. That law is separate. We need to understand that the person who is a member, an outside member, cannot be from the same organization. Be sure.
Okay.
This prescribed NGO or whatever, a social worker or whatever, and cannot be from the same organization.
Okay, Joravarji, now it's a few questions from you. Sir, you can unmute yourself. Suppose
Yes.
a software service company is providing...
So your speaker is off.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Suppose a software service company is providing service to Microsoft and its employees are going to Microsoft office to execute the project. Will such a business not allowed anymore? Because Microsoft is not allowed to outsource the core work.
And that's a very nice question. So let me simplify it. Will a lift repair person be allowed in my building to come and repair the lifts? Well, this is not a routine work. And there's a provision for non-routine works, one-time emergency works in the Act itself, which even says that if you have a sudden load of work which is coming only for 1 month, you can hire even contract labor in core areas. That provision is for that sudden workload which has come. That gap is there, still there, where a government is even thinking that employers may misuse by having 3 months contract every now and then.
Overlooking question, sir, because I have 7 to 8 questions more. Okay. Malik sir.
Let me explain that also. We have already examined it in the context of certain very big organizations. The companies which are coming and attending in these organizations are not coming for the core function. For example, a bank, I don't want to name the bank, they are software makers or they are hardware. The hardware has been outsourced. The maintenance of hardware has been outsourced to some company. So when they come and work there, that is not, you see, that's not a core work at all. That's a technical work.
Okay. Sir, Malik sir, whether these codes are applicable to only law firm?
Registration, yes, and everything is yes. In fact, the original Shops and Commercial Establishment Act does not apply on law firms.
Okay. Joravarji, will one-time payment like performance bonus be part of basic bonuses under new labor code? I think this answer we have given.
Yes.
Do we have any compliance obligation towards domestic help?
Let me answer that.
Uh.
The one-time payment of bonus under Payment of Bonus Act is in fact accruing to the employee every month once basic is coming. So that effect we have to take every month in place. That's why when we say that allowances can only be 30%, because I am taking 8.33% as bonus and 12% as PF. So 20% I am anyways taking out from monthly wage.
Okay.
To make provision for monthly bonus accrual.
Okay. Sir, Malik sir, do we have any compliance obligation towards domestic helpers like maids and cooks?
Yes, there is a limit on that. It is not anybody and everybody. It is 5 domestic workers. If they are 5 or more, all the compliances like an establishment will work.
And they have suppose you have one cook and one female.
No, only wages will apply, not the others.
Okay.
Wage law will apply. Now the issue is very clear. Let me tell you, the convention of the ILO has made the government make this structured. It is not, it was a very sad affair. I don't want to say that here, that we were against this convention, but the convention has been voted and we were very solitary out. So this is the law and this has to be implemented.
Okay. So Malik sir, is there any non-compliance penalty for company not following leave encashment policy?
Yes, the penalties are the same, because now we are not having split laws. It's just one law and the penalties are very stringent.
Okay. Joravarji, a worker hired by contractor for his own establishment, will it be treated as contract labor? If yes, who will be the principal employer? Further, who will be the principal employer if such worker was sent occasionally to work to a different establishment of different employer A and B?
So it will be if the worker is hired primarily for my own work as a contractor. So I am not a contractor. I am a principal employer for that particular worker. Moreover, when his home station is my establishment itself. So in such a case, there are only 2 people who are liable, one me and one the owner of premises, where he sits permanently. Not the multiple, for example, if I come for consulting to corporate professionals, I will not become your contractor employee.
Okay. Malik sir, last question. Sir, as per new law, does the company has to pay gratuity on yearly basis, or it will same as earlier where employee need to be complete 5 years to get the gratuity?
No, very clear. For the purpose of fixed term employees, it is on yearly basis. And for the purpose of regular workers, it is 5 years date to date.
Okay. Okay. Sir, we have received more than 60-70 questions.
More.
We have discussed one question which is there, which we have talked, we will ask in the last.
Yes.
So I'm giving 1 minute time to both the person that what will be the impact of this particular labor code in Indian industrialization and Indian growth and India as a competitive country in the world. Malik sir, you then Joravarji.
Quite simple. Quite simple. Am I audible?
Yeah.
You see, the blunders and problems we've had for how many decades? Almost more than 7 decades. Were differential definition of wage, differential definition of worker everywhere. And rights are also, scattered. Service sector has no right to safety.
industrial safety, professional safety. And you see, in the previous presentation, we had made it very clear that the basic rights under the Constitution of India were not being ensured by the previous laws. What do you mean by scheduled employment? Minimum wage is my fundamental right in the Constitution. And you are talking of scheduled employment. If the schedule is not notified, I do not have the right for minimum wages. This is ridiculous. And under the Payment of Wages Act, you have to have an efficacious remedy. If a worker is getting 50,000 rupees as salary, but the limit of payment of wages is 10,000 or 20,000, he does not have a right to an efficacious remedy under the law? Why? These were all big blunders which we have discussed earlier, and in one of my articles also we've done it, that the basic rights guaranteed under the Constitution were not being provided to workers. But now, in the present law, things have been universalized and made very, very simple. You don't have any confusion. What is the right under the wage law? Safety, everybody's right. Safety is everybody's right. Let me tell you, even earlier, even a director of a company, if he dies in an accident, the company will be prosecuted. Now it has been brought to the service sector also, universalized. Wage law, universalized. Social security, universalized. Again, we have that limitation of wage levels. Yes, but then ultimately we will have social security for the entire lot. Now coming to the Industrial Disputes Act, which was having a limitation on confusion and so many multiple case laws. Now that has also been, the earlier case laws have been universalized and brought into one bracket. Who is a worker, who is not a worker, full stop. Who can raise a dispute? We are talking of collective bargaining. If you don't talk of other things and don't use other terminologies, who needs collective bargaining? Who is at a disadvantage? And the IR code is addressing simply that if a worker who's an employee, who's a worker means a person who does not have financial and administrative power, he needs to be given a bargaining power.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay.
So these are going to be very simple.
Okay. Joravarji, now your 1 minute. What is your view on the overall code and how?
I have, in one of my slides, I says the stronger the license you have in your company, more you should be worried about the codes. Now, why a company needed strong license so far? Because they were not sure how to interpret the law in what manner. The new codes call spade a spade, and you already know your liabilities and implications beforehand, and everything is spelled out very clear. If you are sure of working and there is no other interpretation available and there are no loopholes, a businessman will be very happy to know that what he is expected and what his liabilities are going to be, and there are no surprises. A labor inspector will come and spring on you. So he'll be happy to work under such a situation or not to work under such a situation. And you don't need to keep a strong license. You need to have a strong systems in place.
Okay. You have to unmute, sir. Unmute yourself, Malik sir.
Okay, I'll repeat, something which has been repeated in my presentation, my presentation by Mr. Joravar also, is social dialogue, keeping a connect with the workers. Let me tell you, social dialogue has been a major project of the ILO. And shockingly, when we were going, I have done an exhaustive program on social dialogue. This is one area which the industry is lacking very seriously. And I would say it's a feudal attitude of not communicating with the workers or keeping them at bay and not telling them, not making them be a part of the decision making. This is poor. Now, when we are at a speed, everybody needs to be on board and they should know what Mr. Joravar has pointed out, something wonderful. We are talking of trust and predictability. Entire business, trail, starting from raw material till the satisfaction of the customer. The happiness of the customer is built on trust. Let us come back to my presentation about productivity and profitability. All business processes, starting from raw material till the satisfaction of the consumer, are based on trust. If at any stage you do not have trust and reliability in the entire business process, it will break down there. So same is the case with the people who are going to run your very, very expensive machine. Do you afford to run the machine worth crores and crores by a person who does not know basics, or he is not skilled or not updated with the latest software. I can tell you a company here which is running a Mitsubishi machine, which is called, I think, it's which is printing magazines. It is such a high speed that you get a sound of a jet plane. On one end you have a 5 feet tall circular, that reel of paper.
Okay.
A reel of paper, and on the other side you don't even know the magazine is being printed. And in the end, when you get the magazine, then only you count. Can you afford that machine to be handed over to a person who's not upskilled, does not know software? No. Trust and reliability is everywhere in the business process. Otherwise, we lose very badly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Malik sir and Joravarji. We have covered, but for the benefit of all the participants, I'll just announce any question is not given. We have not given answer, or we have not covered. Please write to us. We'll give answer. Friends, you have seen that this now the labor code is not only connected with labor, but it has different connotation and meaning also. You talk about the ESG, the S of ESG is social, and social is connected with the labor part. So this is also people's law. Then we are talking about the labor code, which is 4 code combining together what the 2 learned speaker has talked to you. It is also talking about the more profitability, more planning, more restructuring, and more people-oriented law. So this is also people service. Now the third most important, some people have asked question, and this is the question with everybody, that what should I do to retain my people? Now retention is an issue in the entire industry. The solution lies, there is a new instrument for all companies. It is not for listed or startup. Any unlisted company can bring out ESOP. And in the same direction, we will have the program next month, which is connecting to people's law, which includes ESG, social part, and ESOP. How you can incentivize your team and maintain and retain your talent in the company and pay the amount on the basis of their performance. And that is the win-win situation for both employee and employer. So we will do this program next month, and we will have the learned speaker on ESG, ESOP, and the labor code. Both the gentlemen will be there. So thank you very much to all. Thank you especially Anupam Malik sir, and thank you Joravarji. And my thanks to Malik sir, that we will work together in corporate profession, and we will start all these things in a different manner. And I'm proposing to share a questionnaire to all the participants and the general public, and we will ask them what are their issues in this labor code and how to solve it. That will be one area which we can see that this code should be implemented properly. It should not hit anything because of the knowledge. So that is our target which we want to do. Thank you very much to all. Thank you both the speaker, and thank you my participant. Continuing our knowledge sharing and continuing our plan. Next Friday, we are having our program on the aspects of the merger, M&A. Recent trends and development in M&A and corporate restructuring regime. That will be our topic, which we will do on next Friday, this particular program. Stay tuned with us. Enjoy our knowledge sharing, and suggest us the topics, suggest us the modality, suggest us the things, and send us your question in advance so we can prepare and do the fast. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
I must congratulate you. This is not just this thing. It is a wonderful initiative, Mr. Paul. It's wonderful.